Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top? And how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. What if I told you that you're old? Friends, my 12-year-old tells me almost every day that I'm old, and I gotta tell you, I don't feel old. But think of this. Every single day in America, 11,400 people turn 65 years old. Every single day that happens. That's what we call a niche market. Friends, today, you are going to hear from an absolute expert. He's been in the real estate business for 20 years. He's done over 1,500 transactions for more than $1 billion in volume. I am speaking about none other than Dan Ihara from Honolulu, Hawaii. Friends, he is an expert in helping seniors relocate. He is an expert in helping people take transitional steps in life. Sit back and buckle up. This is Dan Ihara. And I'm joined today by a longtime friend, Dan Ihara. Dan, how are you, sir?
Doing good, my friend. Doing good.
I am so glad. It's an honor to have you all the way from Honolulu, and everyone in the audience is jealous, and I am leading that charge. So, Dan, I ask everyone the same question. How did you end up in the greatest industry in the world?
Prior to real estate, I was selling waterproof cameras around the world. I took a belt of the planet, Earth.
Wait a second. I want to take you even further back than that. Were you born on Honolulu?
Yep. So I was born and raised in Honolulu. My father was a colonel in the Army. So we traveled when I was 5. I left Honolulu and I came back when I was 15. So for 10 years, I traveled through Kansas City, Kansas. I lived in Fort Leavenworth, Washington, D.C. My father was stationed at the Pentagon, Fort Ord, California, and then Seoul, Korea. Eventually came back to go to high school back here.
Wait a second. First of all, thank you for his mission, and thank you for your family being willing to travel like that. So you end up back on the island when you're 15. Now, let me ask you this. When you look back at the time that you spent on the mainland, up until high school, what's your biggest aha? What was the thing that left a mark on you?
I get blessed to live in the best place on the planet because I've seen people in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. The aloha spirit is a real thing. It's a real thing. I mean, people live it, breathe it.
What does that mean?
The separation between one and another is very small because we live on a small island. So you got to be nice to everybody because you're related to somebody at some level, right? The 3 degrees of separation, it's less than 1 in Hawaii. By the time you talk to somebody, you're going to know that you know somebody that they know. So therefore, you have to be kinder to everyone. You can't burn any bridges. You can't do things to your benefit and not to others, right?
So you go through high school. Did you then go to college?
Yep. I went to college at University of Hawaii, graduated there with a marketing degree. And I had a chance to go to Arizona, believe it or not, to get my master's. And I said, there's a lot of sand in Arizona, but there's no waves. So therefore, I'm not going to go. So I stayed home. I'm a surfer, as you know, started going through life as a 20-year-old through different careers. This is my 6th career, but each one of them was business development. That was my role. I became the business developer of every business that I got involved in as a serial entrepreneur, so to speak, where I found ways to make things happen.
Now, those of us that know you well know that your lovely, brilliant wife, Julie, is never far behind. So where does she come into the picture? At what stage?
She's my best mirror in life. So this year will be 35 years for us.
Congratulations. When you tell her after 5, I'll call them launches, but after 5 different career launches that now you're thinking about the real estate business, what does she say?
Are you sure that that's what you want to do? Initially, And then she said, go for it, because she knows that everything that I've done, I've been successful at. So there was no reason for her to think that I wouldn't be.
What was it about real estate that made you want to give it a try?
So prior to that, I was selling waterproof cameras around the world, and I was traveling a lot. I was gone 2 weeks out of the month. And so we had young kids at that time, right? And my wife said, maybe you ought to stay home so that they would remember your name. It got so bad. So I said, yeah, good point. Let's go find a job that I could stay home. And then I met a guy that was in real estate, and he was one of the top producers in our market. And then he said, hey, you ought to come into real estate.
Now, what year is this that you find real estate?
I find real estate in 2005.
So I'm putting on the Wayback Machine, and I'm thinking back to 2005. You didn't know it yet, but you only had a couple of years of smooth sailing ahead of you. But at that time, Dan, there were top producers on the island, but nothing like what you've been able to accomplish. When you got into it, what did you see as the opportunity?
So I saw a job where I can impact people's lives with the living environment that they have. I saw how I could help people build wealth. And the byproduct of that it could be a lucrative career, right? For the amount of money that we make in our industry. I wanted to do something different, that my compensation isn't controlled by somebody else's decisions. My income is unlimited based on how hard I work, how smart I am, and how effective I am to execute.
There's the old adage that real estate offers you three things. You get to be your own boss, you get to make your own calendar, and you get to make untold, unlimited amounts of money. Yeah. But more often than not, people fall in love with number one and number two, and number three never happens for them. Did you have success right off the bat?
In month 2, I got my first 2 listings, and by month 7, I had 7 escrows. And I didn't like life because it was too busy. I said, I don't like this job because I didn't see the money in it, right? I'm working from 7 in the morning to 12 o'clock at night, and I'm making these deals put together. And not only do I have the 7 escrows, I still got to go get more business, right? Because I know those are going to close at some point. I was super busy, and I told my wife, I said to her, honey, I need you to join me. I need you to help me. I need your help, because I can't do this alone. Because she's very smart and she's very demanding. She says, well, if you get X number in escrow, X number closed, X number in the pipeline, I'll come and join you. Well, 6 months later, I did it. And I said, honey, it's your turn. Now you got to go get a license. That was on month 12 now. I was already really busy. By the way, yesterday was my 20th year anniversary.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was super stoked. So fast forward up, get through my first year, and I turn around and I'm in the top 100. So in my very first full season of life in this career, from 2006 to 2007, I got in the top 100. I closed $29 million of business.
When do you get introduced to the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent? And for those of you that are new to the program, that's a book that was written by Gary Keller, Jay Papasan, and Dave Jenks, may he rest in peace, and it's the namesake for this show. When does that show up in your life, Dan?
When I came to this company. See, I didn't even know that book existed. I actually saw it on my boss's shelf, believe it or not. He's not at Keller Williams, right? And at the time, I saw that, but I didn't think much of it because he never opened it. He never opened the book. So he never learned the models. It was hilarious, and I don't think back by it. But when I came to this company and I read, holy smokes, there's systems and models and tools that people before me, who've lived before me, who've had success before me, have used. Why don't I just hop onto some of those? And that's kind of how our business grew. We went from 29 million to 100 million in 4 years.
Now, the economy changes.
Yeah.
You have an incredible aha that has now changed an untold number of lives around these United States and Canada. What's the aha that you have?
So back then, remember 2005, everything was still okay. But we heard there was going to be this downturn. And when we had 7, 8, and 9, everyone felt it. Interestingly enough, Jason, because I started in my career with the mindset of, in order for me to be successful in real estate, I had to get listings. In order to get listings, I had to go find the people with the most number of them versus finding one. I want to find somebody that's got 3 or 4 or more. And so I had to go figure that out. And my brother was in reverse mortgages and said, Dan, there's this whole generation of baby boomers and their parents that are transitioning life, and they've got wealth in real estate, but nobody's helping them. So I started teaching. I started doing seminars. Month 6 into my license, I committed to a 12-month contract for the newspaper. It's this thing that comes out and it's print. It's really big. I don't know, folks don't ever see it.
My dad told me about one of these things that were called newspapers. That's great.
They still are out there. 180,000 subscribers out there.
All right. Well, wait a second, because I know what you're about to do. Because you're about to start teaching, and I love that. And so let me set the stage for you. Friends, you are about to hear about a model that not only changed Dan's life, but he has been teaching around the globe, changing other people's lives. It's designed on doing business with people of a certain age group and helping them with generational transfers of wealth. Now, take my word for it. The numbers on this are absolutely astounding, and the number of people that need this service grows every single day. All right, before we jump into this, I want to announce something, and I'm really excited about it. Friends, Airbnb has joined the most powerful podcast in the industry to roll out the Airbnb Real Estate Agent Referral Program. Here's how it works. You're going to go to MREAnotes.com/Airbnb and you are going to sign up. It is going to be free. Once you do that, you're going to get localized market data. You're going to hear about how long it takes to rent an Airbnb. You're going to hear about the average cost that they're getting. You are going to become the expert so that you can share that data with your clients. You're also going to get a webinar which will teach you how the program works. And then finally, the best part, when you refer your clients and their properties to Airbnb, they're going to turn it into cash for you. You are going to be eligible to receive referral fees. Go check it out, MREAnotes.com/Airbnb. And now let's unpack another real estate model. Now, you don't have to take the notes. I'm taking the notes. They come out every Thursday. If you don't get them, go to MREAnotes.com. That's MREAnotes.com, and they get emailed to you on Thursday. Dan, tell us exactly how to become a real estate planner.
First, you have to identify who your target market is. And we were very clear on that. The target market is very simple, the people with the most amount of wealth in real estate. Who's that? It's going to be a baby boomer and their parent. 20 and 30-year-olds aren't going to amass that wealth in time. It takes time to build wealth. It takes time to build equity, to take that appreciation ride, right? And so we know that they're 60 and up, right? We know that. And sometimes they're even in the mid-50s, the lower age, younger ones, right, that have amassed wealth. But you start to think of transitioning wealth when you get older, when your kids are out of the house, right? That typically happens in your mid-60s. When they're in the house, you're not thinking about other than changing diapers and getting them to the soccer game. But when they're out of the house, you start thinking about your grandkids. You start thinking about legacy. You're going to start thinking about at the end of the day, when I'm gone, who gets what? These are the questions that will inevitably happen to everybody. So it doesn't matter what the stock market's like. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter the level of tariffs that we have. None of that matters. Why? Because we're all going to get older.
You know, just to dot that I that we're all getting older, some of us faster than others, by the way, every single day in America, 11,400 people turn 65 years old. 11,400 turn 65 every single day, Dan.
Yeah. It doesn't matter the interest rate, does it? What we started doing, Jason, is we started in the senior relocation market, which is their primary residence. Because we didn't know much about the investor world back in 2005. So in 2005, in the first 5 or 10 years, we really focused on helping the older adult transition life. Where do I go? How much does it cost? What does life look like? Who can help me? How do I get there? When you solve those questions, you're going to get business.
Now, okay, this is what I want to really zero in on, and then we'll kind of build the conversation from there as we get into legacy protection. When you decide to go into senior relocation, you just rattled off kind of the key questions. Give me to them one more time.
Where do I go?
Okay.
How much does it cost?
Okay.
What does life look like when I get there? Meaning, what kind of food, what are my amenities? Yeah, understanding that model. And then how do I get there? Right? The biggest challenge is their stuff, the personal belongings of 20, 30, 80 years of stuff in their house. And they're never going to sell their house until they feel comfortable. I use these two words, clear and confident. When people become clear on the process, They gain confidence. When they get confidence, Jason, they give you a commitment. They're not going to give you a commitment until you get clarity and confidence, right? It's pretty simple.
Okay, so let's unpack these things. The first thing you said is, well, where am I going to go? By the way, at 45 years old, I just turned 45. I have no idea even where my parents would go.
Right.
How did you start building this knowledge base?
They actually found me. So I put myself in a position where I would learn as much as I can about the aging process. From year one, I got an event in the senior fair. So I had a booth there. And then in the booth, I went to go meet everybody in that industry. And then I met a company that was coming out and starting a retirement community. So Jason, brand new, it's called a CCRC. The entry level is $350,000 to $800,000. You have to give them up front to get the key, to get the opportunity to pay them another $4,000 to $8,000 a month. This is where the wealthy go. Think about that.
By the way, I didn't even know things like that. Is that really how they do that?
It's called a CCRC, a continuing care retirement community. See, a continuing care retirement community, this is where the wealthy go because they know that their kids aren't going to take care of them, right? They don't want to bother little Johnny. So they go to these communities. Well, guess what? That's where the wealthy go. So if you know where they're going to go, then what if you provide those options to them? So anyways, I met them. And their biggest challenge was getting people to commit money to their community, entry fee money. So what we did is we built a company called Senior Move Managers. It's a decluttering company. I don't recommend you doing that. It's a lot of work. We made money on it, but you'll make more money selling real estate. Okay. But there's a whole industry called NASM, the National Association of Senior Move Managers, NASMM. Now, this community, which I had a company in, I was in the Hall of Fame for them for 10 years. We had a business for 12 years in that sense, and I still teach it at that industry. We're now connecting the two industries. The industry of people only downsizing to clutter older adults and real estate planners. We're showing that industry that there's a segment of realtors that understand aging, that understand the process and the journey of these folks. Now we're partnering the two industries together.
Okay, so if I'm sitting out there, let's do it a different way. I'm on the treadmill. By the way, Dan, I just found out there's a lot of people that listen to this show on the treadmill. You do too. Okay. I'm on the treadmill. And I'm thinking, okay, this makes sense to me. I get it. 11,400 people every day in the U.S. are turning 65. I got it. Is step one learning about the different communities that are in my marketplace where people can go?
If you have an intention and a heart pulled you towards that passion of serving an older adult, yes. Not everybody's like that, right? So we have different pillars. The first pillar would be senior relocation. If you care about an older adult and you have that affinity to helping auntie out or your grandmother out, yeah, then that's what you should do.
Okay, so step one, I'm going to go out in my market and I'm going to learn all about these places. Now, if I'm not part of a group like Real Estate Planners and I'm trying to do this on my own, I've now done that. Now, what's step two? How do I actually find the people to teach and communicate with?
So number one, you got to gather the information. You have to have something to share that brings value to somebody. And so that's what it is. And so the simplest way to do this, you could do this in a week or two, just Google retirement communities near me. They're all going to pop up, right? When they pop up, you write their names down, the name of the company, the address, and you call them and you do a tour. And you say to them, you have a lot of older adults that are thinking of transitioning life. We'd like to see if this would be a good fit. Now they see you as a referral source. I became the best salesperson they ever had because I kept bringing people there. And what happens when I give them free business? They give me free business. You give before you get, you're going to get more than you believe you should deserve.
Wow. Okay. So now I've called around, I've done the tours and I understand the differences and I understand the pricing. So now I'm a little bit of an expert on where people can go, but I still have no one to talk about this with. What do I do next?
So you have a database, send an email and invite them to an educational class, either online or in person.
Okay, wait a second. I got a database, Dan, but it's not full of seniors, I don't think.
I'm just curious, Jason. I wonder if they have parents.
That's so good.
Remember, it's not the end user. 50% of the time it's the end user calling us. The other 50% is their kids or their grandkids.
This is mind-blowing for me. You're saying that I can have a database of my contemporaries right now, but I'm completely sleeping on the opportunity, which is their parents. And in half the case, they're going to be the ones that help settle them.
Yeah, 100%. You think of the cross, right? You think of the parents going up, your children going down, brothers and sisters. That's it. Our model is not knocking on a stranger's door or calling people we don't know. We're talking to people that they know us. We're bringing value to them in a way that they've never seen value.
Okay, so I'm going to invite them to this seminar. What do I call the seminar?
You can call it Senior Living Options. That's what we did.
Fantastic. Now break down the seminar for me. If you were advising me, do I do this on the Zoom machine or do I do this in person?
In person is more effective because you can look them in their eye, you can see their tears, you can create relationships with them, you're going to break bread and you're going to have a meal with them.
Okay, now where do you suggest I do this?
At retirement communities.
Oh, that's a big idea. And they're going to be willing to let me do that? What do I say to them?
If you could bring 20 people into your community today to do a tour, would that be a good thing?
Yes.
Would you like my help to do that?
Yes.
Great, because I have a database, and you have a database. What if we put our databases together, we market it to them, we brought them information that they want to know?
Man, that's perfect. Okay, so now they get there. How do I structure the seminar?
I want to pose the problem, right? So first thing in all of the strategies that we do is people will move away from pain faster than towards pleasure, right? And so we have to ask them questions to get them to self-discover that they have problems. The book that's coming out is called What's the Question, Jason? That's coming out shortly. Because it's the questions that are going to get people to say, that is a problem. I never even thought of it as a problem. For example, is your home too big now that the kids are gone? Do you have a bedroom downstairs or do you have to walk upstairs?
Give me a few more. I love this.
Are you tired of cooking and cleaning?
Yes. By the way, Dan, I'm a yes on that.
Right? Is your home too much work to maintain? If you could move somebody else, where would it be?
Okay.
And get them moving forward to somewhere else.
Okay, so step one in my seminar is asking the questions that then hold them in reality and frame the conversation we're about to have. What's step two?
Step two is explaining what life looks like when you do need help. So the conversation is, Jason, there's only two types of people in this world. Can we agree there's only two types? There's a proactive and a reactive person?
Yes.
Okay, so the proactive person looks at the world and says, I'm going to move before I need to move because I know at some point I'm going to need to. That's a proactive person. They're healthier, they're happier, they're less stressed, there's no anxiety. It's a plan, a real estate plan. Or the reactive person shows up one day, they fall down, they break their hip, they're in an emergency room, they never go back home. Which one would you like to be?
Bucket number one for me,
There you
please.
go. See, I do it all in questions. It's just a simple question. I'm never telling anybody what to do. I'm going to pull them towards me based on the question that I ask.
Okay, this is really smart. So you framed out that I'm going to have this happen to me, probably whether I like it or not. Now I get to be in control as opposed to it happening to me. Where do we go from there?
Then I show them options. Here's where you can go. You can stay home and bring care in, and that's cost $35 an hour and at $50 an hour, right? Or you can move out. Right. So either you can age in place, you can move into a family, or you can move out to a retirement community, or you go to a care home, or you just downsize to a house or a condo that's smaller, that you're independent. Right. But I give them all the options. Right. And that's what people want. They don't even understand, number one, the problem, and number two, what are my options in solving the problem?
Okay, so now that you've framed out these options, do you find that there's one or two of these options that end up being chosen most often?
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
Which is retirement communities. Most people will end up going to retirement community in my market, right? Why? Because they know they're going to need help, or one of the spouses has an illness that they didn't want to tell anybody. That's why they're going. They want to get there before the illness gets really bad so that they have care, because they can't care for their loved one at home. Therefore, they need it to be in an environment where care exists already.
Man, let's just say that they pick that path.
Okay.
How do I turn the people that are in the room? What happens next? How do I turn them into clients?
We get appointments.
What do you say?
Does any of this resonate with you? They go, yes. Right. Would you like to create a plan such that you can create a proactive world around you, so that you don't negatively impact the loved ones in your life? They say, yes. Is Thursday or Friday better?
Are you encouraging them to invite other stakeholders, their kids, or how do you talk about that?
I ask them if they'd like to. Sometimes they want to, sometimes they don't. I don't want to ask them to bring their kids when they say, I don't want my kids there. So I'm going to ask them, is there anybody else that should be involved in this conversation?
Okay, now it's conversation day. What are you bringing to the house with you?
We're a lot different from many realtors because we do a lot of research. We'll pull their tax records, we'll pull their permits, we'll pull their platinum. We're going to have everything ready to go. But the biggest tool is a calendar, an old school calendar. Look like everything that everybody else has, 30 days, 31 days, whatever, 3 or 4 months of it. And I asked them, so when do you want to get started? Here's where we are today. What's between you and getting on the market? Well, I got to clean up. Okay, so how many weeks do you need? Oh, maybe 2 weeks. Okay, I write that in there. Okay, so now we're done with that. Then once you're decluttered, then we can have it cleaned, then we can have it staged. And I put those dates in there. We would go live on the market here. Our first open house is here. Second open house is here. Here's the offers. How does that sound to you? That sounds great. Okay, here's how we get started. It's called a listing agreement.
Yeah, I love that. How does that work in concert with wherever they're going to be going? Because oftentimes we find ourselves being a listing agent and then a buyer's agent.
Yep.
In this case, though, they're not buying another home. Are you helping them communicate with the retirement community?
Oh, yeah. Why? Because the retirement community, that's a referral source. It's not a destination. These people are going to get me business. Why? Because I just got them business. So the closer I stay in relationship with them, the greater the chance of them sending me business.
What are some of the values and value add services that you need to provide if you're going to go focus? Because I got to think there's more clutter. I got to think there's large junk removal. How do you think about your vendor list?
The two main areas is the stuff, personal belongings, right? And that's the NASM industry, National Association of Senior Move Managers. That's your biggest solution. By the way, that's also your best referral source because those people know people who are going to sell before they tell anybody they're going to sell because they're cleaning up weeks to months to years earlier. So that's one. The other is you having clarity with them on the process, right? Once they're clear on the process, then they're confident that they can do it. When I show up, they're full of anxiety. They have no idea what's going to happen. And by the time they leave, they give me a big hug and they say to me, Dan, now I have clarity. I feel good. You relieved the burden off of my shoulders.
Okay, well, walk me through. You're going to feel like you're slowing down, but I promise you're slowing down to speed up. When you're walking them through the process, it's the same process that every other seller would go through. You're just slowing down because they may be not sold anything in 30 years.
Exactly. You're bringing very much clarity to every step of the way. And so what we've done is we've taken the entire process from when we meet them to the time they close, and we tell them what it's going to look like before it happens. And we send them videos before it happens. So they're very comfortable with the process, right? They know what's going to happen. So that's where anxiety happens in real estate. I don't know what's going to happen. But if as a realtor, if we can get in front of every contingency that shows up in your market, that typically will happen, your clients are going to feel confident and comfortable. They're going to make decisions.
You mentioned videos. Talk me through that. Are you providing these videos as the transaction is moving, or are you giving them one video to watch at the beginning? How does it work?
So after they get an acceptance, they get a video. Congratulations, here's what's going to happen next. Before their inspection period, here's what we need you to do, here's what's going to happen. We tell them what's going to happen. The buyer can either say, I like the property, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to cancel, I don't like it, or I want a credit or repair. It could be those things. And then your choice is to accept it, to reject it, or to counter it, or to negotiate it. So at least they have clarity on what's going to happen, right? And that, we're told, has been very helpful for our clients.
Are you texting those in a TCPA friendly and compliant way, or emailing them, or dropping off VHS tape?
Email, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. There's got to be people in the room that listen to the seminar and then say, this is great. But by the way, I'm looking around the room and I actually feel young at the moment. I'm only 81. And so I'm still 5 or 10 years off. They end up in your data bank. How do you stay in touch with those folks? And what are some of your most powerful touches?
Honestly, it's just email. Because we have 80,000 in my database. I can't call everybody.
Wow.
I just can't. I mean, one of the biggest things that Gary impacted my life, Jason, the first thing he said is feed the database and touch it regularly. And I took that to heart. We had 3,000 in our database back then. We got 80,000 today. Because every single person comes in at open house, every person that registered for any event that we do, they all get there. So they get in our current, give them information every week. So basically that's it.
So that's an email a week. Give me some examples of the type of information that you're providing.
Some of it's tips to building, protecting, and transferring wealth, right? What does that look like? So mostly it's going to be tips, and then there's going to be a little bit of our listings and stories that other clients have said about us.
So as you're progressing through this process, you have this epiphany, which is it's working great, but a lot of these people are trying to now protect wealth, and some of them are wildly wealthy, and you kind of get interested in this idea of, and I'm going to say words that everyone finds scary, 1031 exchange. You start getting involved in what I would consider to be exotic tax strategy. Number one, should I be scared to death of all that if I'm a real estate agent, or should I embrace it?
You should embrace it, number one. It's not difficult. The industry has told us to stay away from it. I'm not sure why. Because if you truly want to protect wealth, the number one enemy to generational wealth is capital gains taxes. The second is estate taxes. So we should know that if we really care about their money, right? And one of the questions we suggest that we all ask every listing is, do you understand your capital gains tax liability when you sell? Why is that question important? Because it only matters to them, doesn't it? You prove to them that you care about their money before your money.
Ah, that's good.
It's a different perspective, right? Most realtors are going to talk about everything that matters to them. Here's my marketing. Oh, I'll give you a discount on my... That's table stakes, right? I mean, yeah, that's what everybody else does. If you want to separate yourself, you got to talk about what matters most to the wealthy. That's their money. I'm saving them hundreds to millions of dollars. Every week we do that for clients. Why? Because they spend it in taxes. So one of the things that I learned, Jason, early on in my career, maybe in year 8, early on, right? I asked the lady, hey, do you have any investment property? She goes, no, I don't. And then we started talking about her house that we're selling. And as we leave, she goes, hey, but Dan, what about my other property? I go, what other property? You said you didn't have an investment property. She goes, oh no, that's my mom's old house. It's just been vacant for 8 years.
Oh my gosh.
But that was my aha. I said, see, as realtors, we think that people intentionally buy everything. What you're going to find is because people pass away, 2.1 million older adults are going to die in this next 12 months. 80% of them own real estate. There's a massive 1.68 million listings that have hit the market in a transfer to a family member. So this lady goes, oh yeah, I have it. So we ended up selling it. So then I had to change my question. Not, do you have an investment property, is, do you own more than one property? That's a magic question. See, if you own more than one property, guess what? I found an investor, right? Now, let's say they say no. My next question is, if you could, would you? That's another magic question, right? If you could, and everyone's going to say yes, right? And so there's always a path to getting to an appointment. What I learned, Jason, is in my 20 years is I finally figured it out. And the secret sauce is it's 2 steps. You got to get an appointment, then you got to get an agreement. Everything else is easy, right? Getting an appointment, then getting your, well, chances are you're not going to get an agreement until you get to an appointment, right? And if that's the case, why do we try to sell on the phone and get to the agreement when you know you're not going to get there? So what we do is we focus on the appointment and get off the phone, go get another appointment. Why? What if our business was we had 1 to 3 appointments every day?
That'd be great.
Right? Well, why do we not focus on that? What we're teaching now is the specific questions to get the appointment. Now, not everybody's going to buy or sell, but guess what? They're now in your current, right? We call ourselves the family realtor, right? Why? Because we're going to help your family, grandma, the parents, and the grandchildren. We're going to help them all.
Dan, you're blowing my mind. Let me ask you this. If I'm out there and 1031 is simply a time that shows up on my clock twice a day, and I don't know what it is, where would you tell me to go learn about this? How do I bring this into my business?
Just Google us. I mean, we've got tons of training. I started doing this training on year 1.
Let's talk about this because you've had this incredible success. You just laid it out for everybody. You decided to start this community real estate planners. Why did you do that?
Well, Gary mentioned if you have a secret sauce, put it on the train and let it run across the counter. Well, I didn't know much about how impactful what we're doing is to the world until I got on a call with you and you said, no, we're going to do it now. I said, Jason, I'm not ready. And you forced me to push it forward 3 months after our conversation, and it blew me away. I really believe that my mission is to change the way realtors show up. See, the real estate industry teaches us what to say to people, what to say at people. My suggestion is we come from curiosity before judgment, because I can't be the judge of how important money is to anybody, can we? Right? But we have a tendency of doing that as a realtor, right? You should sell this because you'll make more money. Well, what if that's not my goal? So if you come from curiosity, though, then you're going to learn what matters most to another human being.
I love it, man. So you put all this together. Where can people reach you to find out about all these packages in your community?
Real estate planner. You can look us up. Just Google me. You'll find me all over the place. We have free videos. We do training every week available online.
All right, Dan, I want to switch gears. Back in ancient Athens, there was a philosopher named Epicurus, and he has this incredible villa in downtown, and he invites his best friends over to sit in the garden and talk about life. I'd like you to come to my garden. Will you join us?
Yes.
Let's talk surfing. Dan, there's a spiritual connection that happens when you surf. And for those of my friends out there that have never done it, why surfing, and how would you describe that moment?
Well, number one, I've done it since I was 14 years old, so it's been a long time. So I go in the sunrise. So I watch every sunrise and I watch every sunset. For me, I only got two goals in life, Jason. One is to watch every sunrise and sunset till I die. The other is to surf every day till I can't. And it's a pretty simple life that I have. I'm 5 minutes from where I surf. I'll go here after that. But it clears my head. I'm always thinking about work and I'm thinking about how to serve somebody. And it gets me away from that. And I get my best ideas. My best thoughts come from when I'm not thinking. Number two is it's great for my health, right? I mean, I'm physically active every day.
You can say that again. I was out surfing the other day, and I was surfing middles at Honolulu Bay. And I got to tell you, just to row myself out there was exhausting, man. I was a mess after that.
Yeah. Well, if you don't do it every day, it is taxing on your body.
Well, it's also hard to exercise those little muscles that don't get used in anything other than surfing.
Exactly.
I love that. All right, next, family. Every time I see you, and I'm lucky enough to do it 2 or 3 times a year, you're surrounded. There's another Ihara around the corner, it feels like, at every event. What does family mean to you, and what are the rituals you have in place to keep them so close?
I'm really blessed. I've got an amazing wife. She's my rudder of life. She's my best mirror of life. She's my spiritual warrior as well. I got 3 wonderful boys. 2 of them are in our business now, and they just love it. One of my ahas, and I tell this story because it's impactful. There was a time in my life where I was pushing my business and everything was like, I knew what I wanted and I was pushing hard on everything, including my kids, right? Until I got home one day, and after a baseball game, the 3 boys started going to Julie's car, my wife's car, and nobody wanted to come in my car. And that was my aha.
Wow.
It's like, wow, is this how I'm showing up? This is not the guy I want to be. I want the kids to want. So then I realized that I kept talking at them. And that was one of my pivoting points of asking questions. Because when we tell somebody something, we're coming from judgment of some level, right? But if we ask questions, we lose the judgment. So I pivoted that to asking more questions to my kids, and now they started liking me. Then they started spending more time with me. I go surfing with them twice a year. I snowboard with them once a year. We travel the world together. They work with me. They come to my house every day. I got to tell you, I'm very honored and blessed, and I got just great kids. I learned to ask them what matters to them.
Gary once told me that if you chase your kids until they're 18, they'll spend the rest of their life chasing you.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, last question for me. I promise you, because I'm one of them, that half our audience has this fantasy of just moving to Hawaii. If they're going to do it, Dan, what are the surprises going to be for them?
The surprises for them will be that everyone's really nice here. And people don't get upset. They don't honk their horn. They'll be surprised at how much gasoline costs. They'll be surprised that it rains almost every day, but not more than 3 to 5 minutes.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's just Malka showers, trade winds, they just drizzle, and that's how it keeps everything so green. Right? They'll be surprised about how strong the ocean is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the ocean is much stronger than you think, especially when the water is moving. And I don't know if you know this, an engineer told me that 1 cubic foot of water weighs 47 pounds. 1 cubic foot. So imagine a 10-foot wave. Yeah, that's how it breaks boards. So it's powerful more than you think. Right?
Wow, I had no idea.
They're going to realize that it's different. And people who come here, sometimes they get rock fever. Meaning they got to get off the island. Right.
Because the pace slower, or is just the world different?
Oh, yeah. The pace is slower. People don't hum at the same rhythm. There's a lot of people that just are very casual about life, and life is really good here. Yeah, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, you know what, man? I think you just did an incredible job explaining it. Dan, I love the family. I love your heart. There's a compassion that comes out in you when you talk about people going through these life changes. And I believe that if that wasn't there, you would not have decided to teach it and get on an airplane and leave your island and go city by city in the continental U.S. teaching real estate agents. And my friend, for that, I am grateful. Dan, I love you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, brother.
As I'm listening to him, I'm having this epiphany, right? It's the same one that I have anytime somebody tells me about a niche market. It's the way to make a lot of money. Now, that's not necessarily why you do it. You can tell Dan's heart. He wants to help people. He genuinely has compassion. But in the end, Dan is an entrepreneur. He's a capitalist. He's a business person. I think about Sue Adler and Scott Schumann. If you haven't listened to their episode of the show, go listen. I think about Tim Heil. If you haven't listened to his episode of the show, go listen. Tim looked up and said, I'm only going to focus on people whose homes did not sell the first time. He became an absolute master in expired listings. Sue looks up and she's focusing on people that are making this transition. Dan looks up and focuses on people that are of senior age. And they all did it the same way: education. You see, the key to Dan's model is that every day there's a new group of people that wake up feeling more uneasy than they did the day before because they're one step closer to having to make a move that they don't know anything about. It's called fear, friends. Gary Keller teaches us that fear is an emotion of the unknown. It's an emotion of the future because it is only there when you're uncertain. You're not afraid of your past. You already lived it. You're not afraid of the present. It's happening right now. The only thing you ever can be afraid of is what's going to come next when you really don't know what it's going to be. The secret to Dan's business is very simple. He takes people from uncertain to certain around a transition that is wildly scary to them. That's it. And he does the entire thing through education. And you might discount it, but it's genius. I wake up in the morning and I learn everything I need to know about retirement communities. Then I wake up the next morning and I market to have seminars teach people about it, and I do it at the retirement community. Then number 3, I go meet with the people that are ready to move now. Number 4, I simply send emails every single week that talk about the tricks and the hacks of making this transition. Rinse and repeat, sit back and wait for the closings to happen. Friends, here's my question. If you're focusing on everybody, are you really focusing on anybody? That's the genius of Dan Ihara. Go forth and do likewise. Before you go forth and do likewise, wait a second. Earlier, we talked about Airbnb, and I don't want you to forget it. Airbnb has joined the most powerful podcast in the industry to roll out the Airbnb Real Estate Agent Referral Program. Go and sign up. It's free, gang, and you're going to get the localized market data so you can be the economist of choice. When your clients are thinking of putting their home for rent, you'll be able to tell them how much they're going to get, how long it's going to take, and if vacation rentals even make sense for them. Then, if they decide to put their property into the system, you're going to get paid. It's a win-win-win. You can't go wrong. MREAnotes.com/Airbnb. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week, and every week we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points in the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. Millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.